Hi, this is Mike, and this is
Rajo.
from thesubstream.com. Today we're going to talk about a guy I know you love, you and a whole bunch of Romanian teenagers. What did we see?
This Is It, which is a movie starring the late Michael Jackson.
Michael Jackson died, right? Like I heard that. So he died like 8 days before this big series of how many concerts?
Well, it ended up being 50.
Those were supposed to be his final concerts in London. This is it. He was going to play all the big hits, and like 2 weeks before that happened, his doctor murdered him. His doctor manslaughtered him, allegedly. Luckily, there's footage. They took all the footage from the rehearsal, and they've made it into a movie that's not quite a documentary and not quite a concert film. What? I don't know. I think you might have liked it. You were kind of grooving. What do you think?
I loved it. He says it himself in the movie that like he wants to put on this concert for the fans, and even though he was broke and even though he's weird and whatever, like I kind of believe that. It was all, like Billie Jean, Bad, Beat It, like all the big hits that you remember him for, that he changed the face of music with, that, inspired millions of other people to maybe try singing or pick up an instrument or whatever. So I would have loved to have gone to the concert had he not died as well, but it being in London, I probably wouldn't have gone to the trouble. They made this film, putting together all this footage for the fans. Like they kind of nailed it. It was exactly what I wanted to see, knowing what I knew beforehand.
I enjoyed it. It was one of those things I enjoyed just by dint of the fact that I was really kind of pleasantly surprised. It's a really unsophisticated film in terms of the way that it's shot. It's literally just, a lot of the performances have one or two cameras that they keep cutting back and forth between, and some of it sounds like it's fake. Like some of it sounds like I'll take that back, but some of it sounds like they're trying to sing, but just with 90% energy, and it is this weird middle ground between like a candid rehearsal and a behind-the-scenes performance, and that stuff's not so good. The thing about Michael Jackson is he's like the ultimate enigma. Like even like leaving aside the question of like whether or not he molested children or not, like just if you say I'm not interested in that, there's a whole bunch of artistic decisions that he's made over his career that are equally as mysterious as the mystery of the child's panties, and whether his finger. You get to see kind of a little bit, like you get to see him making decisions, like do this, don't do that, more of this, less of that. And you see, he seems to be in control of his own material, and I kind of maybe get the sense that he is so utterly in control of what's going on, even though he's getting older, and even though he looks a little creaky and he looks like your grandma, kind of, that the same kind of creative impulse that led him to kind of decide, like, what if I do this crazy backwards walking move? What if I do this crazy hat tip thing? All of those weird, kind of brave, really good artistic decisions that made him who he is, they're this flip side of the same coin that makes him kind of decide to only wear really weird purple military regalia shirts. All the bad, as many of the bad decisions as there are, you realize that they're kind of hooked onto the other side of good decisions.
In this film, because it's a rehearsal and like he's not giving his all in all the dancing sequences, and he's not singing every single line, and he's not pushing his voice to the limit like he would in a real concert. So what does kind of fill the void there are his weird sort of costume decisions.
Well, I mean, it's kind of the good thing and the bad thing about this film is part of the way that it was produced is they signed all the agreements when they sold the rights to this footage, the people that are involved with making the film, that they had to screen it for the Jackson estate. The Jackson estate was going to get 90% of the profits off of the film. Couldn't have any material that was negative towards Michael Jackson. Had to be PG. Means it's essentially not a documentary. The filmmaker is not given editorial journalistic control, right? I'm sure there were way more interesting, revealing moments of him freaking out and acting like a real human being that they caught on footage, but we're never going to see that. But you would never expect to get to see that about Michael Jackson because he's like the most manipulated, controlled, packaged, no glimpse behind the veil ever media thing in the history of the 20th century, really. Going in, you don't expect it to be a documentary because that would be impossible.
Especially since that's kind of been attempted with that whole Martin Bashir thing from like 5 or 6 years ago, like
Which was a fiasco. Like
totally, but it did sort of lift the veil a little bit in terms of what you're saying. Like that was sort of the first kind of chance for him to be a human being in front of the whole world, and he kind of blew it.
yeah, like I mean, he's not like his version of being a human being was let's go to the forum shops at Caesars and spend $1.8 million on urns.
If you've been famous from the time you were 11, and you've been famous for being a great singer, being really charismatic, having an amazing ability to dance and whatever, and you're changing the world with the music and the performances you're giving, maybe he hasn't been a real human being for like 40 years. Like maybe all he knows how to do is like sing and dance and whatever.
Everybody's a real person. Like what, you know what I mean? He's, you get little glimpses of him being candid in this, and he's as weird as you think he would be. And, there's enough of that you can kind of buy it as like, okay, this is, a neat behind the scenes rehearsal film that isn't being carefully managed to be the kind of Michael Jackson's final gift to his eternal loving fans, handed down with the passion of the King of Pop, which is all that creepy, weird packaging that's been attached to Michael Jackson for the past 20 years. Which means that the film is worth watching. Like, I enjoy it. Like, it could have been so much worse. He's he's ridiculous, he's pompous, he's full of himself. He dresses like he's a lieutenant in the Gremlin army. He's weird looking. You never pierce that veil, but you do get a little bit of candidness that makes you think, oh, it would have been cool to go see that concert. This is a kind of an interesting simulacrum of going there. It's never going to happen. Nobody will literally ever know what was up with this dude. Because even like you said, even when he was trying to behave like a normal human being, it was like no normal human being anybody has ever met before.
It's the weirdest concert film you'll ever see because it's not a concert film. You see Michael Jackson and his amazing band and his fantastic dancers. You see all this stuff, and he's performing all these songs and not giving it his all, but like it's still pretty great to see someone like that, regardless of his recent checkered past, but it's still cool to see him sing Billie Jean and dance on stage while doing it. And then when the song's over, there's like no huge thunderous applause, like the 60, 70,000 people that would have been at that show aren't there. My thought coming out of the film was like that was both amazing and kind of sad. And I think that's literally like every time a song ended, you're like, oh yeah, no one got to actually see that in person. He never got a chance to sort of make up for all the weird shit that has been sort of swirling around his world in the last 15, 20 years.
What do you give it out of 10?
I think I enjoyed it a little bit more than you did, so I'll bet my score is going to be higher. I'm going to say 8.6 out of 10.
Yeah, and I say 7.2.
I just make it 8.
If you insist.